All right, so it is recording. I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to hand it off to Naisha.
Hey everyone. I'll keep it really brief. Many of you know me as the program coordinator for A Healthy Start. I may look a little different because yes, I did cut all my hair off and dye my hair blonde, but it's still me. I am really excited about bringing this training, paid family leave, to all of you, something that has been heavily talked about in our program. And we are bringing this because I don't think a lot of people understand that paid family leave or lack thereof contributes to infant mortality, maternal mortality, and like adverse birth outcomes. So we really wanted to get the language and the training to be able to support the clients that we at Healthy Start serve and other organizations and programs who work with pregnant people and just in general who work with marginalized communities to be able to tell them their rights and explain what paid family leave looks like. So I'm going to turn it over to the Work and Family Coalition, and yeah, I'm super excited.
Thanks, Naisha. Thank you for co-hosting this with us and letting us speak about such an important topic. So let's get started. Before that, let's get to know each other real quick. So if in the chat, please go ahead and put your name, pronouns, and if you're comfortable, put your workplace or organization, or if you're just attending as an individual, let us know, but we'd love to get to know all of you. And for us, we are the California Work and Family Coalition. My name is Charlotte Flanders. I am the Education and Training Manager, and my pronouns are she, her, hers. Unfortunately, Jenya Cassidy will not be able to join us today, but she is our director. Her pronouns are she, her, hers, and she's been in this work for many years now. And I'm going to pass it off to my colleague, Katie.
Hi, everyone. I'm so excited to be here. My name is Katie Waters-Smith. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm the political organizing director for the coalition.
Angelica?
Hi everyone, I'm Angelica Andrade. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I am the administrative assistant and Spanish training coordinator at the coalition.
And then Mia.
Hi everyone, good morning. I'm excited that you all are here. My name is Mia Hemstad. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm the communications manager here at the coalition.
Thanks. And the beautiful slides you see today is what Mia created. And she will be monitoring the chat as well. So if you have any questions or need help, just reach out to Mia. Alrighty, so who are we as the coalition? The California Work and Family Coalition is a statewide alliance of organizations united in the belief that all people should have the time and resources to care for themselves and each other. We do this through organizing, advocacy, and education. We are fighting for a world where all workers and family members have access to paid leave to bond with new children or care for their ill family member. And before we get started, as you saw in a lot of the advertisements, this is a 3-part training series, and I just wanted to share what this will kind of look like. So for today, for our first training session, we're going to talk about paid family leave, job protection, and the impacts of these laws. For the second training session, we're going to do a review. There is a lot of content, so we just want to review lactation accommodations, paid sick and safe days, and some new paid sick day laws related to COVID. And then finally, for the third and final training, we're going to go into how to file a claim for paid family leave, how to communicate your employer, and do some practice scenarios to see how all these laws work together for families. But for today, our training goals are to learn the basics of the California paid family leave laws, understand existing and new legal protections, and then finally learn the landscape of paid leave laws in the US. So the meeting agenda. So we're going to start with the current landscape of paid family leave in the US, understand the impacts of these laws on individual children and communities, do an overview of paid family leave, job protection laws, have a few FAQs, and then a Q&A session. But as we're going through this presentation and you have a question, just go ahead and pop it in the chat and Mia will take note of it and we will definitely address it during the Q&A session. So let's get started. The history of paid family leave. Unfortunately, compared to the rest of the world, the US is the only developed nation that does not have a national paid family or medical leave program for its citizens, which is why you see the name 0 weeks. The name is also significant because it is a documentary. You can watch it for free. We're going to share these slides, and there's a link here. And this documentary really analyzes the current crisis of the lack of paid leave in the US, how it impacts workers, families, moms, and caregivers. And they also compare it to other developed nations and compare the health benefits with or without this policy. So I definitely recommend to watch this. And here's a quick infographic, what we've just been talking about. You see United States at 0 compared to the rest of developed nations. This infographic is for paid maternal leave for when mothers have to recover after giving birth. But these same developed nations do have other paid leave policies for fathers, for your own illness, for caregiving. So we have a lot of work to do. But through organizing and advocacy, this is changing. Here, especially in California, since 2002, this is when we had this law. But like I mentioned earlier, our director, Jenya, she's been in this work since the 90s. Like she's been in this work, rooting for this for a long time. So the law passed in 2002. It was implemented in 2004 as the California Paid Family Leave Policy. We're the first in the nation to pass this at the state level. In 2003, the law was expanded to include more family members. In 2006, the wage replacement increased from 55% to 60 or 70%. In 2008, the new parent leave law passed, so more parents could take time off. And then finally, our most recent law in 2002, we expanded job protection to 6 million people so they can take more time off and bond for their new baby or caregive. And across the nation, this really started a movement after California passed it. So, more than 55 million people have been positively impacted by paid family leave and paid sick days law. As you see here, after California in 2008, New Jersey passed it. A few years later, Rhode Island. And now you see a cluster of a lot of states that are beginning to pass and implement these laws, realizing that there's really a need for this. And since we had this since 2002, and a lot of developed nations have had this for decades, there have been years of study of positive health outcomes due to paid family leave and family worker friendly policies. We found positive impacts on new mamas and health outcomes for children, such as it lowers the infant death rates, it increases the number of babies attending well baby visits and getting their vaccinations. It increases the number of people who breastfeed, and it also extends the amount of time people breastfeed, which this is an indicator that helps lower the rates of infection and SIDS, sudden infant death syndrome. This enables parents to be at home with their baby during the most crucial time of their baby's life, right? The first few weeks when their brain is developing, and this is shaping the way they interact with the world around them. So there's a lot of positive health outcomes from this. And as we see here in this infographic by Breastfeed LA, the increase of the duration of breastfeeding nearly doubled in California for new mothers who took paid family leave. It increased 5 to 9 weeks in lower paying jobs and increased 5 to 11 weeks for higher paying jobs. Similarly, in New Jersey, for mothers who took the paid leave, they breastfed for 1 month longer than average. So it's just great statistics of positive impacts. And in addition to that, paid leave laws such as paid family leave and paid sick days have many positive impacts, not only for health outcomes, health equity, equity in the wage gap. We see this as it allows people to caregive for a family member and remain in the workforce. It improves people's economic independence, which is a preventative factor for intimate partner violence or domestic violence. It improves employee productivity and retention rate in a workplace. It closes the paid gap between men and women, and it increases the number of people receiving preventative care, which lowers the long term costs of healthcare costs as they are able to do checkups and maintain a better, healthy lifestyle. So many positive impacts. And we've also seen the need this year, right, through COVID, that people do need to remain in the workforce but care for their own family. And we wanted to get to know you real quick and questions for you. So, with this, did you take paid family leave? And go ahead and put this into chat. If you don't feel comfortable, no worries. But did you take paid family leave? How did it impact your pregnancy or parenthood experience? How did it impact your caregiving experience? But if you did not take paid family leave, or if you didn't even know about it, how do you think it would have changed your experience if you did? So, I'll give you a couple minutes. And Katie, I don't know if you want to read off a few as well.
Sure, yeah, we'll just give folks a minute or two. I know that's a big question, but yeah, we'd love to hear from you. So we have someone sharing that they did not take paid leave and actually quit their job for a year, which was 24 years ago. But yeah, a lot of people do that, right? If they don't either have paid family leave or have access to paid family leave, they leave the workforce because these events are not things that you can change, right? They're really important, important events. So yeah, that's why where all this data comes from about saving employers' businesses, right? Or like improving economic security for women and families. Yeah, and then someone else sharing that they did that as well. And then we have someone sharing that in 2008, they didn't take paid leave. They also quit their job in retail, but in 2016, they were able to take paid family leave and return to work at 12 weeks. So the difference between having and not having paid leave.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then someone saying that it was really essential for their recovery and mental health, but it was really hard to figure out. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, and then someone took paid family leave for caregiving. So yeah, these are such powerful experiences. Thank you for sharing. And this is exactly why we're having this training today, to make sure that you can share this information with your communities.
Thanks, Katie. And thank you, everyone, for sharing. Yeah, like a lot of you said, that it is a positive impact, but also there are barriers because if you don't know about it, and there's still current barriers today. Like it's a great law, but there's still a lot to do towards equity. So there's a lack of awareness, especially among communities of color, low uptake among new immigrants and monolingual speakers. The application is often difficult. The wage replacement is often too low for low income workers. There's a limited definition of family. This impacts the LGBTQ community and immigrant communities. There's a lack of job protection. It's often difficult for independent contractors to access benefits. Most public employees, so if you work for the government, often are not included. Fathers are less likely to take leave for bonding than mothers. And then finally, family members that become caregivers to their own seriously ill family member often don't realize they can take paid family leave. And if you see in this infographic, if you're a person of color, you have low income, and you have a low educational attainment rate, the awareness of paid family leave is low in accessing benefits. But like Katie said, that's why we're having this training today. We don't believe that socioeconomic status and race and ethnicity should be the barrier. We want to educate everyone to access your benefits. So I'm going to pass it off to my colleague Angelica to talk about what is paid family leave.
Thank you, Charlotte. So, what is paid family leave? Paid family leave and disability insurance, they are both like two halves of a whole. So they are both wage replacement programs funded by the California State Disability Insurance Fund, which is funded through employee taxes. So your taxes. In California, we have pay for when you can't work, if you are pregnant, disabled, caring for a family member, or bonding with a new child. So to take disability insurance, it would be for your own illness or a pregnancy-related condition. And for paid family leave, it would be to bond with the new child, care for an ill family member, or prepare for a military exigency. And so the eligibility requirements for paid family leave and disability insurance are paying into state disability insurance. So as you can see on the screen, there's an image of a pay stub, and you can see that this individual does pay into the California State Disability Insurance. So that is something you will look for in your pay stub to see if you are paying into the fund. Paid family leave can be used for when you are having a new child or need to care for a seriously ill family member. Disability insurance is for when you have a pregnancy-related disability or need to care for your own illness or disability. And you must have earned at least 300 from which state disability insurance tax deductions were withheld during the base period. And these are the eligibility requirements for state disability insurance specifically. So you must be unable to do regular or customary work. You must be in the labor market. You must have suffered wage loss, and you must have earned at least 300 from which state disability insurance deductions were withheld during the base period. And this is very, very important. So citizenship and immigration status do not affect the eligibility of paid family leave benefits. The application process can be a bit more difficult, but I'm sure we will cover the application process in another training. So paid family leave for bonding, it provides partial pay for parents while they are on leave from work to bond and care for a newborn, adopted, or foster child within the first year after birth or placement. It is a 60% or 70% of normal weekly wages, up to 1,357 per week for up to 8 weeks. And we added this important note that this rate will potentially go down to 55% by January 1st, 2022, unless we advocate for it to stay the same or increase. And this is a priority bill for us this year. So I'm pretty sure we will talk about how to get involved with the coalition towards the end. So stay tuned for that. Leave can be taken all at once or in parts, so hourly, daily, or weekly. And to access this benefit, you would apply through the EDD website within 41 days or later with the good cause. The bonding application will require proof of relationship for birth parents, non-birth parents, foster and adopted parents. If the birth parent used pregnancy disability leave, they do not have to provide further proof of relationship. If a parent did not take pregnancy disability leave, they will have to provide proof of relationship. So that can be a birth certificate. And now paid family leave for caregiving. It also provides partial wage replacement to take time off to care for a seriously ill family member, defined as children, spouses, domestic partners, parents, grandparents, grandchildren, parent in-laws, and siblings. It is also 60% or 70% of normal weekly wages, up to 1,357 per week, for up to 8 weeks. And like I mentioned, the rate can potentially go down in January. Leave can also be taken all at once or in parts, hourly, daily, or weekly. And to access this benefit, you would also apply through the EDD website. And for the caregiving application, it will require a medical certification, care recipient's authorization for disclosure of personal health information, and statement of care recipient, certification from a physician or medical practitioner to verify the person you are caring for has a serious illness, And this is very important. So you can care for a family member in another state or country. Care does not have to be in California as long as you are a California employee.
And oh, sorry, Angelica, I just want to jump in real quick and just say that, as Angelica is going through some of these slides about the application, she's just giving some pointers, but we will go more in depth with it and go through the process in the final training. But just wanted to note that.
Oh, did we have time for poll question?
Yes, we do.
Oh. So the first poll question, Jordan and her partner, Alicia, just had a baby. Jordan is a public employee and wants to take time off to bond. Jordan looked at her paycheck and California state disability insurance is not taken out of her paycheck. Does she qualify for paid family leave?
All right, so folks should be able to see the poll. We'll just give people a couple minutes or seconds, I should say, to fill it out. No pressure, just whatever your gut reaction is. Yeah.
And it's completely anonymous. This poll questions is like helping everyone learn as we go. So if you get it wrong, don't worry. We're going to continue to learn together, but we have a few poll questions throughout the presentation.
All right, we'll give folks maybe 5 more seconds, and then I'll end the poll. Mia, are you able to see the results?
I'm not seeing it.
Yeah, this is Jenya. I can see the results. They popped up on my screen for some reason.
Okay.
No is the big winner at 63%. Yes, 32%, and I don't know, 5%.
So yes, the answer is no. Jordan does not qualify for paid family leave because she does not pay into the California State Disability Insurance. The second poll question is, Kristen's father has cancer and he needs her help to attend doctor's appointments, give him medication, and take care of him at home while he receives treatment. Her father lives in New York. Can Kristen still take paid family leave if her father lives outside of California?
All right, so I just launched the poll, so hopefully we should have our system down and Jenya can read the results in a couple seconds, but we'll just give folks another 20 seconds to fill this out. All right, last call. I'm going to close the poll.
Okay, so in this poll, yes is the big winner at 90%. No got 0, and I don't know 2.
So the answer is yes, Kristen can use paid family leave to care for her father. Like I mentioned, the caregiver must be a California worker who pays into SDI, and she can take leave all at once or in parts. The care recipient must be a seriously ill family member. There is no rule about where the care recipient lives, in or out of state. Rather, the caregiver must be a California worker. And another important note, paid family leave is a wage replacement program only. It does not require your employer to give you your job back when you return from leave, but there are job protection laws, and Katie will go over that.
Thanks so much, Angelica. And I'm seeing some questions in the chat about Jordan's situation. So we are going to answer those in the Q&A at the end, and hopefully some of this section about job protection will help to answer a couple of the questions that I'm seeing in the chat. So essentially, job protection and wage replacement are different kind of programs or laws. And so if you qualify for job protection, your employer must guarantee you your exact same job or an equivalent job when you return from leave and maintain your benefits during leave. Refusing your request for leave or retaliating against you for using or attempting to use leave is also prohibited. But your employer is only required to do those things if you are covered by separate state and federal laws. And so those are the laws we're going to dive into in a little more depth. So there's really 3 job protection laws that it's important for us to know about here in California. The first is one most people have heard of because it's a federal law. It's called the Family Medical Leave Act, or FMLA. The second law is a California state law, which is kind of our state version of the FMLA, called the California Family Rights Act. And because it's stronger and more protective, that's a really important law for us to know about here in California. And we also have a California law called pregnancy disability leave. So pregnancy disability leave provides job protected leave. It's a very strong law. It applies to anyone who's an employee at an employer with 5 or more employees and is unable to work due to pregnancy, childbirth, or a related condition. It can be used for prenatal care. It can be used intermittently, and an employer must continue the pregnant worker's health benefits while they're on leave. For most people, what this looks like is they'll take about 4 weeks before their estimated due date and 6 or 8 weeks after the birth to recover. And sometimes people will refer to this kind of leave by saying things like, I'm taking my 6 weeks after my baby was born. So typically this is the kind of leave that people will be taking. What a lot of pregnant people do not know, though, in my experience, is that if the pregnant worker's doctor believes that they need more time off for pregnancy complications, either prenatally or postpartum, the doctor can actually write them a note saying that they need more time, and a pregnant worker can take up to 4 months of pregnancy disability leave. So this is really important for people to know if their doctor is recommending that they go on bed rest in pregnancy, or if they have a complicated birth and need more time to recover after the birth.
And also, Katie, I do want to add this is also considered for mental health. So if you're suffering from postpartum depression, that is also considered a health condition that can extend your pregnancy disability leave.
That's right. Thank you so much for highlighting that, Charlotte. Yeah, that is actually, postpartum mood disorders are the most common postpartum complication, which I'm sure you all are aware of working with pregnant folks and new parents. Yeah. So in looking at our other job protection laws that cover leave for other reasons, we have both the Family Medical Leave Act and the California Family Rights Act. For almost everyone in California, the Family Medical Leave Act is only relevant insofar as we have heard of it, and so we know that it's a leave law. The California Family Rights Act is just much stronger and more protective, and so most California workers are covered by this law, and that's the law that we're going to focus on the most in this part of the presentation. So you can take leave under the California Family Rights Act for 4 different reasons. One is to bond with a newborn, a recently adopted or foster child. You can care for a seriously ill family member, which is defined in the law as these family members, so as children, spouses, domestic partners, parents, grandparents, grandchildren, parents-in-law, and siblings. You can take leave to care for your own serious health condition or in specific situations related to the military deployment of your child, parent, or spouse. In addition to taking leave for one of those 4 qualifying reasons, you also have to meet 3 eligibility requirements. You have to have worked at your job for at least 1 year. You have to have worked 1,250 hours in the year prior to taking leave, which is about 25 hours a week. And you have to work for an employer with 5 or more employees. And this part is where the California Family Rights Act is really different from the Family Medical Leave Act and much better, because the California Family Rights Act protects all employees at an employer with 5 or more employees, and the Family Medical Leave Act only protects people who work for an employer with at least 50 employees. So that's a really big difference, and that was actually the expansion that we advocated for and won last year. which we really like to celebrate because it's very important. So a lot of folks all over California got together and really spoke out about how important job protection is. And so we were able to pass a historic expansion of of the California Family Rights Act called SB 1383 last year. And as I mentioned, that expanded job protection to workers and businesses with 5 or more employees, which is about 6 million more Californians. It also expanded job protection for caregiving to more family members. So now grandparents, grandchildren, and siblings are included, and they were not before. And it also expanded job protection to military families who can take leave to make childcare arrangements, get parental care, or make legal arrangements if they have a family member. If they are a family member of someone who's being deployed. All right, so assuming that you qualify for protection under the California Family Rights Act and the Family Medical Leave Act, these are the protections that you have. You can take 12 weeks of leave per year, either all at once or intermittently, meaning in parts. You must be restored to the same or an equivalent job when you return to work. Your employer has to continue your health benefits, and you are protected from discrimination and retaliation. So some of you may be wondering, what if you don't qualify for job protection? So you can still use paid family leave or state disability insurance as long as you're paying into the state disability insurance fund. So more people qualify for the pay right now than the job protection. You can certainly ask your employer to hold your job for you while you're on leave, but if you don't qualify for job protection, your employer is not legally obligated to accommodate that request and hold your job for you. So putting everything together, there are really multiple steps to ensure your rights. The first step is figuring out kind of what kind of leave you want to take. Often that involves talking to your doctor or medical provider. It's important to talk to your employer in terms of the job protection piece, right? Because that's the part where you're really interfacing with your employer. And then for the pay, you need to talk to the Employment Development Department because they administer the pay piece. For all of these steps, we really recommend documenting your communication and getting everything in writing so that there is a written record. So for instance, if you have a conversation with your supervisor and say that you want to take baby bonding leave, it's good to follow up with an email and say, per our conversation earlier today, May 11th, I will be taking baby bonding leave, from this date to this date. All right, so I think we have time for a couple of poll questions to put this all together. So we are going to start with Liz, who is planning to adopt a baby. They have worked at the same employer for 5 years. They work 30 hours per week and think that about 30 people work at their job. So will Liz be able to take job protected leave to bond with their new baby? And again, yes, no, I don't know. Whatever your first hunch is completely fine. And we'll give folks a couple seconds to fill this out. All right, last call. I'm about to close the poll. I'm going to share the results. And Jenya, do you mind reading them off?
Yes, 1 at 89%, 1 no, and 1 I don't know.
Perfect. So that is correct. And let's review why Liz qualifies for job protection. So Liz qualifies for job protection because they meet all 4 requirements. They're taking the time for a qualifying reason because they're bonding with a new baby. They've worked for their employer for more than 1 year. They work 30 hours per week, which is approximately 1,560 hours in the past year. And they work for an employer with more than 5 employees. So great job, everyone. All right, and our next poll is for Gina. So Gina's registered domestic partner needs emergency surgery. Gina has worked for her employer for 9 months, works 40 hours per week, and works at a large company with about 70 employees. Will Gina be able to use job protected leave to care for her partner? And I will start that poll right now. And again, first hunch, we will give folks about 30 seconds to fill this out. All right, 5 more seconds. I'm about to close it. If you haven't voted, please do so. All right, I'm going to end the poll and share the results. So Jenyan, do you mind reading the poll result?
I was waiting for my cue. Thanks. Oh, sorry. Barbara Greer said she didn't see the poll, so maybe not everybody was seeing it, but I'll read out the results. So will Gina be able to use job protected leave to care for her partner? And this one was a lot closer, with yes being 44% and no being 56%. No, 0 I don't knows.
That makes a lot of sense, because this was kind of a trick question. So what this is kind of designed to help everyone understand that unfortunately you have to meet every single requirement. 3 out of 4 isn't enough to qualify for job protection. So in Gina's circumstance, Gina has a qualifying reason. She needed a leave to care for her registered domestic partner. She works 40 hours per week. So actually in 9 months, she's already met the minimum hours requirement. She works for an employer with 70 employees, but she doesn't meet the requirement to have worked at her employer for at least 1 year, because she's only worked there for 9 months. And so this is a great example of why we're always advocating to expand the laws, because we know that these kinds of emergencies happen on their own timeline and don't take into account how long we've been at our current employer. So with that, I'll pass it back to you, Charlotte.
Thanks, Katie. So we're going to go into a few FAQs before a Q&A session, but I do want to add, I know that might have been a lot of information, but next week we're going to, review the information, and we're also going to talk about how some of these laws work together. So if you're still struggling understanding how they look together, come back next week so we can talk about that some more. But so for our first FAQ, does an employee have to work a minimum number of hours or days before becoming eligible for paid family leave or state disability insurance benefits? So no, like Angelica was talking about earlier, you do not have to work a minimum of number of hours or days. Rather, it's the amount of benefits you receive during a base period. So a base period is a quarter. So we've all have heard of our quarterly years. So it depends on the quarter and how many earnings that you get in that. So the 300. And if you don't know, I have linked a calculator here to help you calculate your benefits. And this calculator is from the EDD website, is where you also apply. So you can also kind of gauge your benefits and your earnings there. The second frequently asked question is, can my partner and I both use paid family leave to bond with our new child? So yes, we're going to go into this question a lot more during the second session, but for now, both parents, yes, can use bonding leave to bond with their new child. You and your partner may, but don't have to use it at the same time. It's really situationally based if you take it at the same time or in different times. But like I said, we're going to go more in depth of what this looks like during the second training session. And then finally, what is considered a serious health condition? This is what we've been hearing for paid family leave, California Rights Act, and medical leave, that you have to have a serious medical condition to take this leave or care for a seriously ill family member. So what that serious medical condition is that, one, you're requiring an overnight stay at a hospital or medical care facility. 2, you're incapacitated or a family member is unable to attend work or school for more than 3 days, requiring ongoing ongoing treatment, including doctor's visits or prescription medication. And then finally, chronic conditions can cause periodic incapacitation. This does include asthma or migraines. So with that, we're gonna have about 10 minutes for a Q&A session before we go into some resources and next steps for our training session. So I'm gonna stop sharing my screen so we can all see each other. But if you have any questions, I don't know, Katie or me, if there was some in the chat, but you can also unmute yourself and ask the question as well.
One question that came up in the chat in a couple of ways was the issue of SDI and who doesn't pay into it. And I think that was a really good question, as Katie noted, that when we're talking about the job protection, we're just talking about do they qualify to take it, but then we didn't say anything about whether or not they pay into SDI. And for the most part, it has historically just been public employees who don't pay into SDI, and not even 100%, but the vast majority don't, just because they weren't paying into SDI in the beginning because they had their own disability insurance. And there is kind of a complicated way that as a whole entire organization, they can opt in, but not as an individual. So I hope that's helpful, but then also obviously people who are contractors who are not paying into SDI because they're not, they have to opt into that themselves. So those are kind of two examples. I hope that's helpful. And so the vast majority of employees in California do pay into it.
I have a question. So for the Jordan scenario, she doesn't qualify for the California one, but what does she qualify for, any leave, or does she just have to does she qualify for FMLA or?
So for
Sorry.
Jordan, yeah, let's go back. I think that scenario, based on the information we have in that scenario, I think all we know is that Jordan does not pay into SDI, but if Jordan qualifies or meets all of the qualifications for the California Family Rights Act, then Jordan would be able to take job protected but leave, and would have to figure out if they have a separate disability insurance through their employer to get the pay.
Got it. I was wondering about the pay because I think I have clients in the scenario. So I don't know.
That's why we have it. Yeah. And really, I think if there's one kind of takeaway, you got to figure out both so that we can put it together so that they have both job protection and pay.
Okay. Got it.
Really good pregnancy disability leave in the chat. Does anybody see that?
Jenya, do you want to answer that?
Okay. I was waiting to see if somebody else wanted. So I love pregnancy disability leave questions because I think California is unique in some ways in having this. And the total number of weeks that can be taken. So if you have a pretty uncomplicated pregnancy, then even if you're feeling pretty energetic and great, you still do qualify for that 4 weeks prior to your due date and the 6 to 8 weeks after to recover from giving birth, even if it was a fairly easy birth. However, for many of us, it's not an easy birth, not an easy pregnancy, and you would really have up to 4 months of pregnancy disability leave if needed. And that would not be something that you just, you take no matter what. It would be more like in the case of, like Katie was mentioning, and Charlotte, when people have postpartum depression, they may need more time. When I had twins, needed more time before giving birth because I was on bed rest. So there's a lot of situations where people might need a lot more time under pregnancy disability leave, but it's up to 4 months.
And I think one more thing on that to add to that, Jenya, is I think it's like a use it or lose it scenario, right? So if you don't take the 4 weeks leading up to your birth, you don't get 4 more weeks after. So it's like you have those 4 months, it's related to pregnancy disability. and also related to medical complications due to it. So every time I think pregnancy disability leave, I think, oh, the baby's out, so we're done with pregnancy, right? But it still applies when you're recovering. It still applies if you have a mental health condition that is a result of becoming a mother. But it is a use it or lose it. You don't get to use it, when your baby's 8 months old later on, unless I guess you could say, oh, I just was diagnosed late with, a perinatal mood and anxiety disorder. But I think it's more commonly to use it kind of like right after birth. No problem. Does anyone have any other questions? There's one more thing I don't know if we talked about, but with pregnancy disability leave, oh my gosh, I'm already blanking because I'm thinking of like multiple questions, but oh yes, that your boss, your employer can't force you to go on it. So, I would have liked to have gone on pregnancy disability leave, but the fact of the matter is our wage replacement rate is very low. It's only 60% for most people. Most of us can't afford only 60% of our pay. So you can't be forced to go on PDL, pregnancy disability leave. You can ask for accommodations though. So let's say your work requires you to, lift really massive bags of espresso beans or something. And you're like, I can't do that in the last month of my pregnancy. I need to switch roles, positions so that you can stay working, stay making 100% of your pay leading up to it. So know that you can't be forced to go on PDL if you don't want to.
Hi, this is
I
Barbara. I do have a question. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
No, go ahead, Barbara. I already asked the question. Go ahead.
Okay. I do have a question. How often will you ladies be providing this training? Because I'm sitting here like, man, they should have done this like a month ago because of a situation with one of my participants. She had a preemie baby and she took the bonding time, but she went back to work and the baby was having a lot of difficulties, wouldn't eat. And so her provider, which was her mom, kept calling her at work. And long story short, she made the decision just to quit work to take care of her baby. There's a lot of other dynamics that were going on at work. The company was laying off everybody, was offering severance pay when they closed down in June. And she tried to hold on as long as she could so that she can get the severance pay. But she just made the decision that her baby's health was more at stake, that she just quit her job. And I'm thinking like, oh, shoes, if I had known this information, I could have told her, go to your doctor and have them to give you the extended 4 months.
Mm-hmm.
And that way she would have been eligible for her severance pay.
Mm-hmm.
So my question basically is, how often will you offer this training?
Yeah.
That's a great question. Charlotte, did you want to take it?
And the second part of the question is, will it be available to participants or just case managers, social workers, people in the field?
Yeah, that's a great question, Barbara. So we have trainings throughout the year, just like this one where we've partnered with Naisha and her team, and they specifically hosted it, which is fantastic. And we also have our own PFL educator program, and it's very similar to what we're doing right now. And it's really open to anyone. It can be open to advocates, community leaders, new mamas, and it's really throughout the year. We don't have set dates yet because we do want to partner with organizations to get people there. We also have these recorded, so we can share their recordings and you can watch them anytime.
Okay.
But if you do follow us on, Mia has really great social media to follow us on social media, sign up for our newsletter, and we will post when the trainings happen. We like to, well, this is our second training of the year, but we also had another partner training. So that was a bit with that other organization and with their community. But then again, in the fall, we are going to have this PFL training program in about August, September, October. We're going to have it in English and Spanish. And we're hoping to have more trainings in different languages. So I'm sorry it's a bit ambiguous and it's not really straightforward. We kind of host trainings as we go. But if you need one-on-one support, like as a coalition, you can always reach out to any of us here on this screen, and we're here to support you as well. And I think, Mia put some of the YouTube videos in the chat. So if you want to share that with your clients, they can watch it as well. And we'll be sharing the recording of this as well too.
Okay, thank you. I just signed up for your information. Thank you so much.
Yay. Thanks, Barbara. I don't know, Mia, if you had something to add to that.
No, you covered it. I just wanted to say, like, I know it's super devastating to find out about your rights well after the fact. That's what happened to me. And I just want to say, like, I know your heart's probably breaking for this mom right now, and she's lucky to have you as a support. And it really isn't your fault. Sorry, I'm getting emotional. It's really not your fault. And we really, this information should be communicated to us in our workplaces and by our doctors. We go to the doctor how many times during our prenatal and they don't tell us any of this stuff. So, we have all of these resources on YouTube. So they're in existence. You can send them out to anyone and everyone. But I think one of the core issues is always just marketing, getting the word out. It takes a lot of resources, hours, budget. That's a lot of times nonprofits don't have. So that's why we're grateful for all of you here who can kind of act as our ambassadors of this information and really get it out to your communities.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I think we have time for one more question before I share my screen again and show some of the resources Mia was talking about and talk about our next training session. So does anyone have one more question? And if you have questions, like let's say by next week, just write them down and then we'll answer it again next week, or you can always email us.
I have one. Oh, Karen Martinez, did you have a question?
Yes, really quickly. For caregiving, if you're taking leave to take care of a family member, is 8 weeks the most that a person can take, or does it kind of apply similar to the pregnancy related leave, where if the patient needs or the family member needs more time to recover and needs more help, that they can get a doctor's note and get more time?
You want me to?
Oh.
Yeah, no, for caregiving, so you'd have 8 weeks. I did 6 for 8. You have 8 weeks of pay, and then you could have up to 12 weeks of job protected leave. And one of the things about caregiving to remember too is that it's usually there is kind of that one family member that's the main caregiver, but it can be shared among the family too. So let's say the person does need a longer time. You would only have 12 weeks within 1 year, but another family member then, who may also have 12 weeks could take over, and et cetera. So that's one way to look at it, if that helps.
Yeah, and I just want to say, Karen, so the 12 weeks is the CIFRA part. So that's the job
Yeah.
protection, and that's the unpaid. And 8 weeks of that unpaid is where you receive your pay. So you have a remaining 4 weeks, which is unpaid. And let's say theoretically you have a sister. You could ask your sister, be like, oh, I really can't take unpaid time off. Could you sign up for paid family leave if you qualify, and you can now take care of this family member, and kind of continue like what Jenya was saying. But it's a really great question. We're also going to go into some of those scenarios next week as well, because it's kind of visualizing that, and like it's scenario based and planning for that type of situation. But thank you for that question. We only have 1 minute, so I'm going to quickly share my screen. But thank you for that question, Karen. I hope that answered it as well. All right, so here are some resources. We're going to share our slides. There's links to these, and we'll share more resources again. So, this is about paid family leave, our partners' legal aid at work, and also the EDD resources. For next week, we're going to review the laws that we talked about today, paid sick and safe days, and then do the practice scenarios that I kind of mentioned of like how do these laws work together and how to plan for either caregiving and bonding. And that's it. So we're at 11. Thank you so much for joining us today. We hope to see you next week. We're gonna learn a lot more, review a lot of this information so you can share it to a lot of your clients, friends, and family members. But thank you so much for joining us today, and we hope to see you next week.